New Westminster Schools recognizes and acknowledges the Kakite First Nation as well as all Coast Salish peoples on whose traditional and unceded territories we live, we learn, we play, and we do our work. Start by adopting the agenda. May I get a motion for the recommendation that the Board of Education, School District Number 40, New Westminster, adopt the agenda for the January 27th, 2026 regular school board meeting? Mover, seconder. And I do know that a motion was not included in the package that we will have up on the screen. When we get to agenda item number, Mark, what is it? 8B, which is BCSTA motions. All in favor of the agenda? Thank you. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes from the December 16th, 2025 board meeting. Can I get a mover? That the Board of Education School District 40 New Westminster approve the minutes as distributed for the December 18th, 2025 regular school board meeting, and a seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. All in favor of those minutes from December 16th? Appreciate that. I don't believe there's any business arising from the minutes. Agenda item 3 is presentations, and we have a learning story today from Melanie Smith, District Vice Principal of Safe and Caring Schools. Welcome, Melanie.
Hey, thank you for including me in the presentation today. I'm here to talk about human and social development. Very briefly, I'll provide a very high-level overview of our human and social development data to begin with. Overall, students across the district are reporting an increasing sense of safety and belonging, with particularly strong and consistent results among our younger students in grades 4 to 7. Stable participation in student surveys strengthens our confidence that these trends reflect real improvements over time, but we also recognize that the data highlights important areas for growth. Indigenous students and students with designations in particular continue to report lower levels of belonging, and fewer students indicate that they have meaningful, trusting relationships with caring adults at school. Also, in several key indicators, district results remain slightly below provincial averages, reinforcing the need for continued targeted efforts. Moving forward, the district will focus on strengthening adult-student relationships through mentorship and relational practices while working closely with our district equity and inclusion teams to implement equity-focused supports for priority student populations. Social emotional learning will continue to be embedded across schools with ongoing data review to monitor progress and guide our responsive adjustments. Next slide, please. Building on our work to strengthen student belonging and connection, student feedback and wellness data point to a need for more consistent, developmentally appropriate learning that supports healthy relationships, understanding of boundaries and consent, identity and belonging, personal safety, and sound decision-making. Next slide, please. To bring this work to life, I'm very pleased to invite one of our teachers who's deeply engaged in this area to share her vision. As the district's sexual health and consent educator, a role that's been supported by the board, she will speak to her work and the impact it's having across our schools. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to Shannon Isaac.
Hello, folks. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit with you all today. I am the district's sexual health and consent support teacher, and I wanted to just speak briefly about how my role is supporting students and highlight a few particular areas from the past year that have supported particular goals that we have. So I'd love for you to just imagine a student who is part of our system from imagine they can go through kindergarten to grade 12 all in 1 year. And these are some of the things that they may experience. So when they are in their primary years, starting in kindergarten, they are learning about the correct terms for their body's anatomy. They're learning about safe and unsafe touch. They are learning about how to communicate their body's boundaries, what feels right and safe for them. And as they move into their intermediate years, they're learning about what to expect from puberty, how to communicate in their healthy friendships and maintain healthy friendships. And they're also coming into some challenges around some of the ways that other peers behave and how they are navigating what may or may not be a joke, etc. So as an example of how I was supporting this last year, there was a school that was seeing an increase in behavior and phrases that were kind of sexualized in nature, but it wasn't necessarily apparent that the students understood why those things were inappropriate or that they were sexualized. So to support that, I worked with all of the students in those grades on some lessons that helped with concrete practice around expressing their boundaries, responding to boundaries respectfully, and how to follow up if something didn't feel like a joke, even if it was described as a joke, so that students were actually getting concrete practice rather than being told it's okay to use your words, it's okay to stand up for yourself, but actually having some scripts and some practice and some role play around that. And that helped students understand that they can say no to what doesn't feel right for them while keeping their significant friendships healthy. And then as our imaginary student, who may have been in that class or may not have been in that class, moves into middle school, they'll probably start to get interested in what their older peers are up to. So as that student is becoming a fair bit more independent, that can also include a lot less supervision in their day-to-day activities and perhaps their online behavior, which we know can lead to some risks. So our imaginary student would be equipped to be safe online because they will have been experiencing the Kids in the Know program, which starts talking about digital safety as early as grade 3. But if they were a student in our system last year, particularly if they had been at one of our middle schools, they would have had even more robust education around online safety and protecting themselves digitally. As an example, last year, in a response to an event that affected a group of middle school students, I developed a really comprehensive focus series of lessons about intimate images and how to get help if something unsafe is happening online so that can be, it was corrective in the moment and can be protective for students going forward and prevent possible exploitation that may happen. Students in middle school are also, of course, moving through curriculum and moving into high school, moving through curriculum around sexual decision making, what feels right for them, STI prevention, contraception, etc. And students are then also becoming aware of places where they can go for information if their classroom teacher or someone else in their life isn't the place that they know to ask or can't answer their questions. And so these students know about places like Options for Sexual Health and the Sex Sense line, where they can ask their questions and they can get information instead of leaving concerns unaddressed or leaving things unresolved. And we are also planning to have this curriculum then infused even more across the curriculum in high school through a series of lessons that will touch on numerous curricular areas rather than just in the PHE curriculum area, so that students can get comprehensive sexual health education in all of their classes, regardless of or in all of their classes, even if they missed a particular day of class when a certain lesson was happening. That's all for me. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thanks, Shannon, and thank you, Melanie, for being here. Trustees, any questions or comments? Danielle? Trustee Connolly?
Yours. I'm just curious. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you very much for your presentation and just point out that Shannon also is a member of the SOGI Advisory Committee and brings, as you can imagine from her presentation, a lot of great resources and experience and thought to that advisory committee. So thank you for your work there as well. I'm curious how, when you're talking about these curricular components, how does that tie in with the provincial curriculum, and are there gaps in provincial curriculum? Are you essentially creating curriculum here in this district, or is this provided by the province?
Shannon, I'll just ask you to come back to the microphone. Thanks.
So for the most part, when I am addressing a challenge, or when a teacher reaches out to me about something that they would like to be covering more in their classes, I am creating the resources that teachers are using. There are lots of resources that also already exist that I have curated and that I'm able to connect teachers with. We will be looking at rolling out Kids in the Know, which is an existing program as well to help support that. But when it comes to those finer points of how to address specific content, or a trickier point when it comes to something like consent or sexual health, which can be, they can be sensitive and challenging. Often I am creating those resources myself. Yeah.
Trustee Andres?
You got to stay there for another review at least. Thank you so much for the work that you do in our district.
That's weird hearing your own voice.
Thank you so much for that. And sorry, I got a little distracted there. What was I going to say? Oh, I was curious about how many students opt out of this kind of education. Like, I think it's really important that all students are getting this education, but I'm curious if we track like just broadly, not individual students, but broadly, how many students are not benefiting from that. Thank you.
I wish I had more certainty about the numbers to give you there. Much of the time, the curriculum that teachers are delivering with their students, or what I'm doing directly with classes, is a part of their learning in the first place. It's not its own separate, set apart, this is sexual health education. It is infused into their overall health education and social emotional learning. And so the majority of the time, students it's just part of their classes. When it comes to those focused lessons in a PHE class, for example, that are specifically about sexual health education, I don't have concrete numbers for you about how many students are staying home that day or missing that class. But for the consent education and for the parts that are just about how we interact with one another in our day-to-day lives, if students are present in class, they're there, and they're being part of that learning and those lessons.
Thank you.
Trustee Carlson?
I wanted to thank you both for your presentation and the work you're doing. I'm actually encouraged by some of what I heard about the focus being on safety, belonging, and mental health, because we know that students can only learn when they feel safe. I was encouraged to hear that students are reporting feeling safer and more included than in the past, but I'm really hoping that the work the district's doing will help to increase the feelings of belonging to all students, to the Indigenous students, as well as those with designations. So I'm looking forward to seeing that data next year and comparing it. So that'll help us as trustees. And I'd also like to thank you, Shannon, for your work. As our children are asking for help with relationships, with boundary setting. So thank you for all you do. It's so important.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I love the journey that you took us on, Shannon, just in terms of what a student might learn through their education journey. And I see many benefits to the very small FTE we were able to fund for you to make sure that this was dedicated work that you could do. And so we're really lucky to have both of you in the district. So thanks for your work. Okay, agenda item number 4 is delegations, and we have Carrie Andrews, president of CUPE 409, and Tuesday Andrich, CUPE National, with us today. Welcome Carrie and Tuesday. They're going to be delivering a presentation on the importance of affordable childcare in BC.
Oh, sure. Good evening, everyone. I am Carrie Andrews, President CUPE Local 409. I'm here with CUPE National Staff Tuesday Andrich, who is the lead on CUPE BC's Seamless Childcare Now campaign, which advocates for the province-wide creation of a system of publicly delivered childcare. I'll ask you to please hold questions and comments until after presentation. We have a lot of info to get through in the time allotted. CUPE 409 represents unionized workers in School District 40. We have over 500 members in our local, which include EAs, child and youth care workers, custodians, Indigenous support workers, skilled trade workers, bookkeepers, clerical, and many more. Local 409 is part of CUPE BC, which is the largest union in BC with over 100,000 members. And CUPE is also the largest union in the country with over 800,000 members. Now I'll hand it over to Tuesday to start us off with a little bit of background and why this matters so much to CUPE.
Thanks so much, Carrie. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for having me here. So we know that there are tens of thousands of childcare spaces needed across the province to meet demand. And the province of BC has made great strides in improving childcare availability for kids age 5 and below. However, before and after school care availability continues to suffer across the province. The current market-based system of childcare has resulted in an inadequate supply of childcare spaces and an unfair distribution of childcare services. Most existing before and after school care programs are located in larger urban areas. So the move towards $10 a day is actually only increasing demand for these spaces. More and more families can obviously afford care through the model, and we can expect demand to increase for the next while yet. And we do know that wait lists for care are extremely long. Many families are forced to apply to multiple providers year after year, and then are waiting years hoping for a callback. And we do know that some children are actually aging out on these wait lists and just don't get access to licensed care at all. So because of this immediate need for childcare spaces, CUPE members are proposing a public option for before and after school care that's operated by school districts. Next slide, please. So there are potentially thousands of cost-effective spaces across BC for before and after school care that could be really quickly created by using existing school facilities and staff. The public school system, as we know, is well known for delivering high quality, accessible, and equitable services that children and parents rely on. The Ministry of Education and Childcare has changed the Schools Act to allow the school districts to implement before and after school care, and the most recent move we saw this past fall with Bill 19. Moving towards a public option of childcare aligns with the BC government's objective of integrated childcare within BC schools. The training that BC's education assistants receive exceeds the training requirements for school-aged care in BC, and school districts can begin to augment that type of training with workshops for EAs working in childcare during their Pro-D days. Next slide, please. Along with your school district's after-school pilot at Lord Tweedsmuir, there are districts in the Cowichan Valley, Peace River North, Nakusp, Nanaimo, Chilliwack, and Campbell River that have been piloting this model of childcare for some years now. Campbell River recently expanded to 7 additional sites due to their pilot success. The school district in Nanaimo's programs have been so successful that they recently began bringing third-party contracts for childcare into the publicly delivered model, and 25% of their EA workforce is now working full-time hours due to the before and after school care programs at their school. And this is increasing recruitment and retention for these workers. More school districts are seeing the advantages of this model of integrated before and after school childcare. Courtney Comox is exploring moving forward to this as well. But we can't rest yet. The need and desire for before and after school care operated by school districts remains really high in our communities, and continued expansion of the programming should be strongly considered. So, and I know this is going to be no brand new pieces for you, but I just thought I'd go over this anyway, just in case. So understanding the funding available, we have the BC Childcare Operating Funding, the CCOF. It's your main umbrella funding parcel, and within this parcel, there are several subsections. So we have the CCOF base funding. This is your essential base funding, and it assists providers with day-to-day costs of running a childcare center. It helps you cover staffing, benefits, supplies, and overhead. And this year, there are no major changes to the base operating funding. So if you're already accessing it, you're going to see there's no extra changes there for you to consider. Rates for the base funding are determined by the number of children for whom childcare is provided and the location where the childcare is provided. The CCFRI, that's the Child Care Fee Reduction Initiative. This funding aims to reduce fees for families using licensed childcare services. Providers joining the CCFRI must start fees that reflect typical rates in their region. And this is a range, and it is suggested, this is from learnings from our other pilots, that districts start their fees at the higher end of the scale just to begin with. Year over year, increases to fees are permitted, but they are limited. So for example, 2026, you can only increase by 3%. Fee decreases are also permitted, and there is no limit on how much you can decrease fees. So it's much easier, of course, to begin at the higher end of the scale as you figure out your costs and all your operating needs and your growing pains. And of course, you can reduce if needed. Early childcare educator wage enhancement. This is the ECEW. This funding provides wage enhancement for early childhood educators working in the program. This means that even if you have EAs that have a valid ECE certificate working in the program, if they are hired into the program as EAs and not ECEs, you are not eligible to receive the ECEW for those workers. They have to be hired into the programs as ECEs to receive that wage top up, which is $6 an hour. Participation in the CCFRI and the ECEW is optional for providers, but enrollment in the CCOF base funding is required to access both of those. The base funding, the fee reduction, and the wage enhancement is provided through the funding agreements. Those can start anytime during the funding term. And for school districts, there is now a streamlined application process for these that are designed to support you to take on operations. You can use the My Childcare BC Services portal to apply for this type of funding. And there are some upcoming key dates for 2026. I do want to flag for you all. So the deadline to apply for funding beginning in February or March of 2026 is February 17th. Applications received after that date will be assessed for funding beginning April 1st, 2026. And then, of course, your parent fees will make up the other difference. So again, make sure you're setting your fees at a rate that makes sense to you in the district. Next slide, please. And then we do have a couple helpful tips. This is, again, learned through these existing pilots that are going on. Of course, parents' needs must be considered when developing the plan to expand, and this is where your surveying can be very helpful. We do see some parents are reporting that they need childcare during school breaks, and they can only move to school district operated programs if it can meet those needs. So it would be really important for your planning purposes to know what proportion of parents have that deal breaker. Offering care on days when school isn't normally in session, like summer break, would likely increase your enrollment numbers, ensuring the long-term success of this programming. So for example, we've seen the CUSP's Early Learning and Childcare Center, and then the programming in Nanaimo offering care on days that school is not in session, as well as during summer break, and this has been a success with parents in those districts. Beginning new programming mid-school year is much less successful than starting programming up at the beginning of the school year. Parents usually have their childcare needs for the year sorted by autumn, and they are reluctant or unable to leave the current childcare arrangements that they have. And then, of course, and this is something that we've seen happen before, so I'm going to mention it, ensuring that there is wide advertising of new programming well in advance of opening. We definitely have seen this piece go sideways fast, and when parents are not aware that there's new programming coming up, the enrollment will suffer as a result. And then finally, economies of scale are really important with this type of programming. We've seen the cost of operating these programs reduces with the more programs that the district operates. In Nanaimo and Campbell River, more programs coming online brought the district to cost-neutral operations. So modeling will show you what the economy of scale is going to be for your own district. It will differ. You have different costs. And that's all for me. Thank you so much for your time. I tried to blow through it quickly, so I didn't keep you.
Yeah, thank you both for being here. I will open it to questions and comments from trustees. Trustee Russell? Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank you for the presentation. It's really, really appreciated. And I know CUPE has amassed quite a lot of expertise on this topic. So we appreciate you taking the time to come here and present it to us. It's a really good reminder, I think, to us as a district about the districts in particular who have been able to make this work. And I think that guidance around economies of scale is helpful. I will say, as a member of the board, that it's been really challenging, the lack of consistency from the province. Although there's been incredible leadership there, it's also been really challenging because we did jump on the pilot project. We were, I think, early members to join in on Seamless Day, and actually took over a program that was being delivered successfully by a third-party care provider. And now here we are at 2 years later, and that funding has been removed. So it's just been very, very challenging to be able to plan and provide certainty to families, which I believe we'll be hearing about later on in the agenda. And it is just not acceptable to us as a board. I think I'm speaking for myself only, to just have the upheaval and uncertainty. So I'm excited to see what comes through with the Bill 19, the enabling legislation, but I am looking for some certainty from the province about what for all the regulations and funding that are attached to that.
I fully agree with that. I have been appointed by the Ministry of Childcare and Education to be on the Provincial Childcare Council. So this is something that we are actively discussing and I am actively advocating for. I'm advocating for your needs because you deserve to have the appropriate funding for these. The ministry obviously wants you to do this type of programming, so you should be appropriately funded for it, right? I will say you're talking about the Seamless Day kindergarten, right? Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, that pilot has ended. They will not extend that one again. But I can say that the CCOF and the CCFRI are not pilot funding parcels. So we can expect them to be stable. I'm advocating for them to be increased and for there to be better funding options available for school districts specifically. I'd love to know if you are advocating for that as well when you have your conversations with the ministry, because I know you also do as well. So we can get them from all directions. I'm sure we have a shared goal here, which is providing great services for children and the community in New West, right? So.
Trustee Carlson.
Thank you. I think you're right. We all want the best for the families and students. Thank you for being here and advocating for them. I do believe that before and after school care and integrated childcare matters. Families rely on it. When it's not there, the impact is immediate. I recognize that you listed provincial funding streams and other districts have been able to operate the childcare models through the funding. And that's great. And I'm hopeful. But where I'm struggling is I think parents deserve honesty. Is the difference between possible funding and stable guaranteed funding? How can a district responsibly build an essential service around annual applications for approvals where we may or may not receive the funding for the following year? In many ways, that's the uncertainty that has actually brought us where we are here today. So I would love to see your continued advocacy. I think we'll continue with it, but we need integrated childcare in our schools, but it has to come with predictable, sustainable provincial funding. We can't set families up to be disappointed again.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I'm absolutely advocating for that type of funding, but I will say if I don't anticipate this type of funding going away, because this is the funding that every single childcare operator gets as if they're not for profit, right? If they're not operating strictly from parent fees alone. And so it wouldn't be just you folks not receiving this funding. It would be every single childcare provider out there. So I can't imagine that is going to happen anytime soon. But if it were, and you were already down this road and had a bunch of programs operating, then you would have to charge the appropriate parent fees to make sure that those programs continued. You don't have to shutter them. You don't have to dip into your operating funding. You would have to charge your parents more. or close the programs.
Trustee Connolly.
Yeah, thank you for this presentation. I'm wondering if we have explored as a district this funding model. Is this one we have? I'm not recalling if we have or have
Secretary
not.
And we have resident expert in the room, Ileana Nielsen. However, yes, we are quite aware of these various funding streams and ourselves are partaking in those kinds of models. In the example of the Tweetsmere After School program as an example. And then perhaps when Ileana comes to present, she can probably elaborate a little bit more surrounding some of our efforts that we have done already in this space.
Thank you, Carrie and Tuesday.
Thank you. I also have a fun little report card from our pilot projects. I will leave with Tamara. If
Okay,
you all want to see it.
interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 5, which is correspondence. Trustees, you will see in your package 2 pieces of correspondence. The first is a letter to Minister Baer related to the English language learners reporting and extended funding support. And the second is a letter received from Kakite parent James Plett about Seamless Day program. And added since the distribution of the board package are a couple of emails between myself and James Plett, as they were initially directed to the Board of Education email. I believe trustees have been copied on all of that correspondence, but they will also be included in the minutes for this meeting so that the public has them. Agenda item number 6 is board committee reports. There were no committee meetings held in December 2025. Agenda item 7 is reports from senior management, and our first report is our superintendent update from Superintendent Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. We're gearing up for conversations regarding budget for the next school year, and survey will go out, correct me if I'm wrong, Bettina, the 16th, open till the 27th, pardon me? The 9th open till the 27th? Yeah, there we go. So that is structured differently than it has been before, in that we're asking folks in some places to identify priorities, not rank, but identify them for themselves. And every option, there's an other option so that people can insert a priority that they don't necessarily see there, making it more open-ended for folks to include their feedback. Last week, we completed interviews for the vice principal pool. Had a lot of internal candidates and external candidates, and have filled the pool. And that's exciting. Next week, we interview for principal pool. Again, a good number of internal and external candidates as well. We're currently in the process of building the agenda for coordinating committee meeting, which occurs next week. Today, there was Collaboration Day. Many schools were involved in their Collaboration Day. One event of note was that the middle schools came together at École Glenbrook Middle School for in-service around restorative justice provided by North Shore Restorative Justice Society, and I understand that that was an excellent day. We've had conversations with the folks who operate Walking School Bus, the Society for Children and Youth of BC, and are working together to build a survey that we will distribute on their behalf in order to gauge interest, to find out what the location of folks who may need to ride the walking school bus. And we have shared with them that the individuals have expressed interest in and willingness to volunteer and to support that program. So we will share that survey as soon as it's prepared and ready to go. And last week, I got to TOC in grade 1 class, Miss Stewart's grade 1 class at Squamish, and now I have a cold, which is kind of was predictable, but it was an amazing afternoon. They were wonderful. It took me a few minutes to get my little people legs again and to remember how to make transitions and those kinds of things. But I'm grateful to Miss Stewart for letting me spend a couple of hours with her kiddos. And I'm grateful to them for being so nice to me. And so that's my report, Chair.
Question, comments from trustees? Thank you, Superintendent. Next, we'll move on to Seamless Day Kindergarten Transition Update from Ileana Nielsen, our Manager of Childcare and Early Learning.
Hello. It is good to be here tonight with you. Thank you so much for welcoming us. And I am bringing up an update on the Seamless Day Kindergarten pilot project. As you know, New Westminster Schools opted into the first Seamless Day Kindergarten pilot in 2022 at Kakait Elementary and added a second pilot in the fall of 2023 at the same site. Between both cohorts, we are welcoming 24 families and children in kindergarten to grade 2. The Seamless Day model operated through a structured schedule that leveraged school facilities and early childhood educator expertise. In the spring of 2025, the Ministry of Education and Childcare has announced that the 2025-26 year would be the final year of funding for both the Seamless Day Kindergarten pilot and the Just Before pilot. I would like to share a little bit of information about our collaboration with WCAS. Since 2014, WCAS operated 24 licensed childcare spaces at Kakait Elementary under the Kids Corner program. They service children in kindergarten to grade 5. In 2022, when the Seamless Day Kindergarten pilot was announced, we partnered with WCAS to ensure continuity of care for families. In that sense, our partnership, we welcomed children in kindergarten and grade 1, and WCAS enrolled children in grade 2 to 5. This partnership led to an increase of childcare spaces right there at Kakait Elementary, with WCAS being able to expand their license capacity from 24 children to 30 children. Between both programs, we achieved the maximum capacity possible for 54 children. We understand how important childcare and before and after school care is for families. So I am pleased to bring this Sunday update on the transition of the Seamless Day Kindergarten pilot at Kakait Elementary. The proposed transition plan is made possible because of the strong relationship we have with WCAS. We will implement ending the Seamless Day pilot as of June 30th, 2026, and support WCAS expansion at Kakait to ensure no loss of childcare spaces. WCAS have indicated their support for this direction. And to move ahead, we will notify the families, we'll notify Fraser Health, and we'll support WCAS in applying for an increase in their capacities from 30 to 54 spaces. We will also be working closely with each of our families in connecting them directly with WCAS. I want to conclude this update with, and to extend a heartfelt thank you to our families for their care and for their sense of community that they helped build together at Kakait Elementary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ileana. Questions, comments from trustees? Appreciate the update. I believe you're staying put.
Yes.
And providing an update on Strong Start and Just Before program relocation.
Yes. Yes. The purpose of the update is to confirm the consolidations of programs as noted below for September 2026 and the timeline for which we will undertake these plans. We have been operating Strong Start at 3 of our elementary schools, and these programs have been running at a deficit every year. For the current school year, we're projecting a shortfall of about 24,500. In 2025, the Ministry of Education and Childcare also confirmed that it will remove the funding for the Just Before pilot. So considering the geography of our school district and the registration data across the 3 Strong Start locations over the last 3 years, the average monthly attendance, we are recommending the following consolidation of the Strong Start programs. Cannot Strong Start relocates as co-ed in the afternoon So Scowitch Strong Start will host a morning and an afternoon session. And the just before preschool remains at Queensborough Middle School site. Strong Start will operate in the morning and just before preschool will operate in the afternoon. We are pleased to share that the number of spaces will remain the same under these consolidations. Families will continue to have access to the Strong Start program, and we are also maintaining the Explore Outdoor program, which is a day of learning outdoors from the land. The Strong Start and Just Before programs remain unchanged for the current school year 2025-2026. We anticipate the impact to families to be minimal as the program runs year to year for different cohorts of children. Communication to existing families will go out this week to inform everyone of the new upcoming homes for the Strong Start locations. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ileana. Can you just clarify that these changes bring us to a net zero loss? Thank you. Thank you. Comments from trustees? Trustee Russell?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going back to the previous item, if that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood the funding and the shortfalls that have brought us to this place. So my understanding is that the funding that we receive for the educational portion of Seamless Day, so I guess during the school day, is approximately $100,000. And with the end of the pilot, we're losing that. Is there anything I'm missing there?
No, that is correct. The funding that we receive from the Ministry of Education and Childcare for the seamless instructional part of the day is $110,800, and we are losing that funding.
Okay. And are there any districts that are still delivering seamless without that model, or could they even deliver that care during the educational portion of the day?
To my knowledge, no.
Trustee Connolly, and then I have Trustee Andres.
I know, thank you for your presentation. I know we've seen the Strong Start piece be in the news before with other districts facing closure and rearrangement of their programs. And it's really, it's sad to see this happening in New Westminster and hitting us as well. I think it was just a matter of time. It's a real shame that the ministry doesn't see the value or is not able to fund the value in these programs. It's an equity piece in my view. We've gone to a full day kindergarten model based on the fact that most kids are going to preschool. For a lot of kids, this is preschool. So not being able to access these programs and that it's a real shame, and perhaps our board could to do some of their own advocacy just to kind of keep it top of mind as well, that these programs are being changed, families are missing out, and the funds are sorely missed. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Andres?
Yeah, thank you. I share the same sentiments as my fellow trustees. I just wanted to try to bring together the two presentations. So we had Ms. Andrett's presentation and talking about these different sources of funding and these kind of different opportunities. Just putting hypotheticals out there, just looking at Seamless Day. So of that missing $100,000+, would it be possible for us to simply charge families the like that 100,000 distributed between the families? Just wondering if you could speak to that point. And then just her other point was around, these grants that we can apply to, and would we be able to apply grants like that to something like Strong Start, or are they very limited in their use? And how do we use them right now in our district?
Thank you for the question. I can provide some information on the two funding streams that we are receiving. So we are receiving funding from the Ministry of Education Childcare for the Seamless Day pilot. that funding is intended. So funding guidelines are very clear to what and how we can use the funding. This is to be used and it goes directly towards covering the early childhood educators' wages during the instructional day. We are not able to redirect these funds towards paying for the before and after school care part of the day. So that is one stream of the funding that ensures that salaries are paid during 9 to 3. The second stream of funding, it is we have set fees for families in alignment with our community partners here in New Westminster. The ministry sets what is called the median average fees in every area. For the Metro Vancouver, the average fees for before and after school care are somewhere sitting at around $630 per month. So this is the maximum. For any childcare facility, a nonprofit or for profit, everyone is invited to apply for childcare operating funding. This funding includes 3 separate streams. So it is childcare operating funding, which assists with day-to-day a cost of a running of a childcare operation. Childcare fee reduction has been introduced a number of years ago, and that aims to reduce the fees for families. And then the early childhood educator enhancement supports a top up of either $4 or $6 for the early childhood educators working in direct service only for the childcare programs. Since we opened Seamless Day in 2022, we have opted into the childcare operating funding, and we have been renewing this funding every spring. We are coming up to the cycle of renewing again. This funding has allowed us to do a couple of key important things for our families. It reduced the fees for families. So every family that attends before and after school care in our school district pays $200 a month, which is the equivalent of a $10 a day. This has happened from the beginning. And second, we have an LOU in place with CUPE that includes the early childhood enhancement wage for early childhood educators. And that is included in their base rate. So this funding is something that we opted in. I also want to just offer a little glimpse into how this works. To be eligible for this funding, we send in reports every month, and these reports are based on the attendance, how many days children attend, and how many children we have registered. When we calculate and when we take this funding into considerations, to be eligible, we first have to maintain our fees under $630 a month. And we have to opt and be approved for all this package for the 3 funding together. When we calculate this funding, CCOF, for example, just to give you an example, provides us with $2.74 per day per child. So this is a formula that comes up. And if we offer a program for 4 hours or less, and about $5.48 per day per child, if the program is open for four or more hours. So yes, we have been approved and received in funding, and our families have benefited from reduced costs as well as our early childhood educators. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the very thorough response. I tried to take as many notes as I could there. It seems to me to be a category issue then.
Mhm.
And so because the ministry is distributing funding specifically within these categories, it becomes difficult for us to access it and apply it holistically across our system.
Exactly. And we will not, also the CCOF funding is very clear in, we wouldn't be able to charge parents for anything else other than before and after school part of the day.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Trustee Carlson.
Okay. I'm just gonna ask this, if I've heard this right, that we cannot charge, because it's part of the public school day, districts are not allowed to charge for like a fee-based program. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
The districts cannot charge to pay for staffing that supports learning during the day.
Thank you. And we don't know what Bill 19 will say, what it may extend what districts can operate. But there's no resources available. Yeah. Or it puts us in a very difficult position. I do want to acknowledge Strong Start, even though that it's being moved. I'm grateful that it's not being canceled like it has been in many districts. So I want to thank the staff for keeping that growing and for keeping the programs running. And I'm also very grateful that the number of families being able to participate has not changed. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And Trustee Russell.
I think this is in order, but I wanted to suggest that the board write a letter to the province regarding sustainable childcare funding and timely information, and about the importance of early childhood education and the Strong Start program in particular.
Would you perhaps have some specific language that we could use to draft a motion?
Sure. Be it resolved that the Board of Education write a letter to the province advocating for sustainable childcare program funding and regulations, and for important early childhood programs such as Strong Start. Okay.
So can I just reiterate? The motion is to direct the Board of Education to write a letter advocating for sustainable childcare program funding, timely release of regulations affecting or coming from Bill 19. And timely release of regulations affecting or coming out of Bill 19. Okay.
And the Strong Start, early childhood Strong Start as well. Kind of three things. Sorry to spring this on you without having.
Or isn't that advocating for sustainable childcare program funding?
Not necessarily. I think it's a different the early childhood education programs are outside of what the ministry
okay.
considers childcare.
Okay, so adding and early childhood education. Okay,
Thank you.
yes. So we have a mover and we have a seconder. All in favor?
Sorry, I
My
just wanted
apologies. Yes,
to
discussion.
ask that we also include our local MLAs in the letter, and perhaps even include, and maybe this was already the intent, that, you know, local examples of how this has impacted our district particularly.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor? Thank you. Motion is passed. Thank you so much, Ileana. We are going to now invite Rick Blodell, Manager of Community Projects and Partnerships, to sit beside you, and the two of you will give us an update on the Queen Elizabeth Elementary Neighborhood Learning Center.
Try and give you a bit of a break. So thank you everyone for having us. We're excited to provide an update from when we last spoke about the Queen Elizabeth Elementary Neighborhood Learning Center. So as you know, we entered the fall with a plan to do public engagement around that space and the future of it and what we want it to look like. Ileana and I, with the assistance of other district staff, created a survey that was meant to target Queensborough residents, school families, community partners, and school staff as well. So the survey was shared via School Messenger. It was shared at Queensborough Community Center with the Queensborough Special Projects Committee. It was emailed to both schools staff for input as well. And then Ileana and I both did presentations to both the Queen Elizabeth Elementary School PAC and the Queensborough Middle School PAC as well. All of this taking place in the fall and kind of early winter. I also met with the Gurdwara and got their input on how they felt the space would best benefit the Queensborough community.
We are very grateful to the Queensborough residents for helping shape how this space will be used and what kinds of programs it would offer to serve the community. We received 103 responses. The survey was sent and it included 2 questions. The first asked respondents to select from a list of services those they would like to see offered at the new NLC space. They could choose as many options as they wanted. The second question invited the public to suggest additional community partners we should consider collaborating. So as you can see, we have displayed the data and all the information that we've received. The number showed how many votes each service is received. So for example, there were 82 responses for before and after school care and close to 255 responses for partner programming. 38 for newcomer support, 58 responses towards health and wellness, early year senior programming and after school programming as well. Next slide, thank you.
So the second element of the survey was qualitative. So it gave respondents an opportunity to make suggestions around programs or partnerships that maybe the first question didn't elicit. So obviously we didn't record the entire list, but we sort of honed in on responses that were mentioned more than once, or responses that in prior conversations with community partners, with district staff that hadn't come up previously. So those were the list that we sort of wanted to highlight. It included adult education, parenting and family support, including workshops, support for young mothers, Kids First Pediatric Therapy. They're a group in South Burnaby that I spent a bit more time researching, Kinsight. Another suggestion that we hadn't considered in depth, but it was a call to kind of Queensborough residents and just see what they could potentially offer the NLC and a way that they could even take a bit more ownership of the space itself. Obviously, we have our partnerships with local settlement agencies, Mosaic being our in-house third-party Swiss support, as well as ISS of BC and Success. A lot of people mentioned more library resources and maybe a stronger partnership with the New Westminster Public Library. And then lastly, a sort of central registration pop-up model. So especially around the kindergarten registration months, an opportunity for the central reg team from the Welcome Center to move down to that space and just save Queensborough families some commute time and avoid traveling to the NWSS Secondary School and Welcome Center location to do that paperwork and complete that registration.
So as you can see, the next slide is a bit busy, but it is meant to be a visual on how the space will be used with 2 sides. Each space is open for about 89 square meters for a total of 178. So strong start and just before on one side with the programs being relocated to this new home with no financial impact to the district. And then following that would be after school programming and most importantly, opportunities for child mining, while adults programming will be happening on the other side of the space. We will welcome partner programming from 9 a.m. to closing with a number of possibilities. This integrated design makes the most of the NLC space because it fosters well-being, the well-being of the community, and it really wraps around all our families. It offers key benefits. Strong Star families. For Strong Star families, it's an entry point and the connection with the broader community, and for the partner programming as well, creating opportunities to offer adult focus programs with on-site child mining available, supporting the holistic family-centered model. It is important to note that these spaces do not preclude the possibility of offering before and after school care in this school in the future. And I would like to go to the next slide, as that would be one of the considerations. We have identified potential locations within the schools where we could support the expansion of childcare spaces. We know that currently there are 132 childcare spaces available for children in Queen Elizabeth, and these additional spaces in the school will support the expansion of the childcare. We're also excited about the possibilities to support one of our community partners to sustain their essential childcare services throughout the breaks and the summer in this new space, with ensuring really year-round care for their families. I'll pass it to Rick.
So another important consideration that we determined was around staffing. In order to do this new space justice, we can't just have it as something where people are working off the side of their desk for it. I think in order to establish it like the Welcome Center, for example, we really need to have a program coordinator type of person that's in that space full time and bringing community partners into the space, navigating some of the geographical challenges just that the Queensborough community has and the isolation that they sometimes experience and lack of services that they have. We really need someone who's going to be passionate about the space and who's going to essentially do what Sony Park and I did when the Welcome Center opened and continuing to today, where we're inviting partners into that space. Therefore, that led to so many newcomers in our community coming to utilize the Welcome Center on a regular basis. This would not be possible without, say, a Sony Park, for example, who's front door of that Welcome Center every day, bringing in programs, bringing in partners, greeting the users who come in to access the space for assistance. So I can't stress the importance of that enough, and a program coordinator type of position being factored into the budget in next year and beyond. So for next steps, we're planning on working with Dave Crow to kind of plan and lay out the interior of the space in more detail, including purchasing the necessary equipment and furniture. We will continue to discuss with Lisa Kemp, has been a very knowledgeable and valuable partner through this process. She works at Queensborough Community Center, and we just want to ensure that we're not duplicating services that are being offered at Queensborough Community Center. It's really important that the two spaces are serving different and valuable purposes on their own. And then finally, through summer and fall, we'll look to firm up some of those partnership commitments that Ileana alluded to earlier from the survey. And then finally, firming up the on-site space for childcare services within the school and confirm that service provider in the future.
Thank you both. This is very exciting and will really bring some important and much needed services to the Queensborough area. Appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into examining what folks wanted and taking a look at that and figuring out how we can make that happen. Appreciate that. Comments, questions from trustees? Trustee Andres?
Yeah, I just want to second that. It's very exciting. I think schools are always at the hearts of communities, and just being able to really meet so many different groups' needs there through really robust consultation. I just really appreciate that. I'm going to just go back because it seems to be the childcare is a theme in this meeting. You mentioned these 133 spots, Ileana, and like, how long does it take for something like that to get off the ground, potentially, and to get our partners involved and to fit out the space for that? Like, what would be broadly a timeline where that could occur?
Thank you for the question. I can provide an answer with to with without specifics, but to the general process. In childcare licensing regulation provides the provisions for applying for a new childcare facility. Within these childcare licensing provisions brought a couple of years ago for what is called school age care on school grounds. This is really to facilitate bringing community partners, the non-for-profit organizations, for-profit organizations, municipalities, and school districts, and facilitating an easy licensing process. An easy licensing process would mean that some of the regulations have been eased. I would anticipate licensing a potential childcare space within a school on school grounds within 6 months. So the process has come quite far away, from a few years ago.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Connolly.
I'm just wondering, and I missed it, but I'm on these spaces and the hours of operation. I'm not seeing any before school care as an option in any of this. And would the kids in the portables, would this be considering moving them over to this space? Like kids in the the childcare portables, would they be coming into this space?
No, go ahead, sorry.
So currently, the 132 spaces that are provided to children at Queen Elizabeth are offered by 3 trusted community partners. One of those community partners is located on the school grounds at the Queensborough Middle School. Those programs will not be moving into the new space at the MLC. The other 2 community partners are offering programs not on the school ground.
Okay. Ileana, I think you can move off the
Okay.
hot seat. Thank you for being with us tonight. We will move on to an update on the proposed city partnership for swimming lessons from Rick Blodell.
Thank you. So I'll start with the background and then move to the update, kind of go in reverse. So last spring, a Parks and Rec staff member sort of approached me informally and suggested, I believe based on conversations with their team, about the prospect of a swim lesson pilot with a number of our schools at Tamasout. And the reason behind this was kind of twofold. One is it obviously provides a great opportunity for safety and swimming for our students. And the other piece was alleviating some of the wait lists that the city had been experiencing with their swim lessons on evenings and weekends. So in October 2025, I believe at the request of the board, I reconnected with the City of New Westminster Parks and Recreation staff. I also reached out to the Burnaby School District as I was made aware that they were doing a similar pilot project with the City of Burnaby. Burnaby School District engaged in a pilot project with the City of Burnaby Parks and Recreation last year. They had 2 schools with grade 5 students who participated in 4 swim lesson sessions at their local pool under the instruction and supervision of City of Burnaby Parks and Recreation staff. This 4-session pilot, which included transportation, was offered free of charge to Burnaby schools. Courtesy of Burnaby Parks and Recreation. So I shared Burnaby's structure with the City of New Westminster later in October. They said that they'd have some meetings with their staff and then get back to me with a decision. And then in January, earlier this month, the city approached me and just said that it wasn't feasible for them at this time to offer a swim lesson pilot to our schools and our students. And it's something that they would revisit and re-engage with in the future. And that's where we land today.
Thank you, Rick. Trustee Connolly?
I'm just curious, does the city of Burnaby and Burnaby School District, what is their setup? Is it a joint use agreement or?
I'm not sure. When I spoke with my counterpart in Burnaby, this was something that this negotiation I know was specific to the swim lesson pilot, and there was sort of an MOU that was signed around this and what the school district would offer, what the city would offer. And I know that took some back and forth, but to my understanding, it wasn't part of a larger discussion. Whereas when the City of New Westminster followed up with me, inserting this type of program or project into a joint use agreement was something that they were discussing amongst their staff.
Thank you.
Trustee Carlson?
Hi, Rick, thanks. I appreciate the city's indicating that they may consider swim lessons and the opportunities through the joint use. Obviously we welcome partnerships. At the same time, I don't want to raise expectations and then have them disappear. So I'd like us to pursue any joint use opportunities only where there's a clear commitment in writing with timelines, with shared responsibilities. I don't want to get families, parents all excited, us excited, and then have it disappear. Thank you.
Hey, Trustee Connolly?
I agree with Trustee Carlson. I just would like to point out that a pilot would be reasonable, though, I think, to see if it's feasible for schools. So I think that and by being very clear about this is a pilot. But if we do sign on to continue, then yes, I agree. It should be very clearly stated how that would work. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Slynn?
Thanks, Rick. I just had a question. We don't have to get really into specifics, but did they provide why it's not feasible, and then what would trigger it to then be feasible in the future?
They didn't indicate anything to me, so I can't really speculate at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being with us tonight, Rick.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, just going to do a time check. I think we're doing okay. Doing so good. Okay, awesome. Next up is an update on 2026-27 enrollment planning from our Secretary Treasurer, Bettina Kitchum.
Thank you. Included in your packages is a background or surrounding some considerations being made for the 26-27 school year in regards to enrollment planning. Obviously, there's been quite a different feel towards this registration process in this current year, where we're seeing a slowed level of enrollment growth compared to previous years. What that has meant is that there are certain elementary schools that do have some space available. Concurrently, we have a bubble of students that are working their way out of elementary schools and into the middle school environment. And so these two in concert together present an interesting opportunity that we are pleased to be offering some school sites. And that is to help to alleviate the pressure at these middle schools that we are proposing to offer families at Lord Tweedsmuir, Connaught Elementary, and FW Howie the option
for our grade fives to stay for an extra year into grade six and transition to their catchment middle school for grade seven. This is a completely voluntary option to those schools and those families, so they can choose what works for them or not. We understand that there are different factors families will make in contemplating what is best for their familial situation. And so this seems like a unique opportunity to offer and afford families for this current year. This is also supported by the fact that the board had some discussion at the December open board meeting surrounding a larger grade reconfiguration in a more permanent capacity from a K to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12 to a K to 6, 7 to 8, and 10 to 12. And at that meeting had asked staff to engage the community further with additional considerations on what we should make as part of any future transition. This opportunity presents a unique, opportunity. This sounds redundant, but it creates an opportunity for us to see how that would work in that environment. It gives us the opportunity to understand what challenges families might have, what opportunities they might present themselves in this kind of environment. And so when we couple that with the construction happening at Fraser River Middle School with the new Simcoe build, there are a bunch of synergies happening that, again, make this a really good opportunity, not only for the middle schools, but elementary school students as well. As it relates to programs of choice, there should be no changes to the Lord Tweedsmuir French Immersion program. We would suggest that those grade 6 students move on to EGMS with a larger group of cohort of students that would be joining them from the Kite and Spencer catchments. The late French immersion program would also experience no change. The lottery or the placement of those students is happening in February, and any students offered a placement in that program would be welcome to move to GMS as part of that late French immersion location program. Connaught Montessori, we would not offer a grade 6 Montessori program, but would still allow those students to stay with the larger group of grade 6 regular stream students at that school already. And what we would propose to do as sort of our next steps would be to send out a survey to grade 5 students next week to collect an expression of interest as to whether they would like to stay or whether they would like to attend their middle school. And we would ask those families to respond back by February 23rd. Given that there is still a little bit of planning time in our processes, we would allow families to elect to make decisions and change their minds as up till April 1st. If they choose to, maybe that doesn't seem like the right fit after their initial decision, they can always reach out to our center registration to advise of a change in heart. So again, while we understand that the board had supported this in principle, it does represent an acceleration. So the staff are looking for a board motion to support this voluntary move for grade 5 families into grade 6 to either stay or go to their middle school. And so we would like to use this information to help collect data for the longer term process of grade reconfiguration within our district. This will help to inform that process, but also know that there will be a greater process around grade reconfiguration as part of our long range facility plan to capture the broader subset of families that this may impact in future. Happy to answer any questions if there are any from trustees.
Trustee Andre?
So just to confirm, the survey would be limited only to the affected schools at this time?
Correct.
Okay, and then just wanted to confirm the wording around the EFI program at Lord Tweedsmuir. So students who are in EFI, they would not have the option to stay. They would all be transitioning onwards.
Correct.
Thank you.
Assuming they wanted to stay in the French immersion stream. Yeah. Yeah. Trustee Russell?
Thank you. I'm a big supporter of delaying our transition to middle schools, so support this as well. I'm wondering if I'm the trustee liaison for a couple of those schools, and I'm just thinking, I don't know if there's capacity to provide some information to families in advance of the survey. I can pitch it to the PAC meetings, but they are a subset of the parent group.
Yes, there'll be a letter going out district-wide to inform the entire community of these upcoming changes. Our partner groups have already been informed. Within that, there's very similar language of what options are being afforded to those electing to make a decision. At this time, it will just be specific to these schools until additional capacity presents itself to be able to more widely offer this. And based on our long-range facility plan consultation, we'll also bring back information for the board as to their confirmation of a move ahead with the grade reconfiguration district-wide in future.
1 second, Trustee Connolly. I just want to ask about some of the other implications beyond programs of choice and how we're preparing key messages or communications for people who are going to get questions like, well, if I delay my transition, can I still join band, for example?
Thanks for that. Yes, we are starting to compile those kinds of questions. In the survey that will go out next week, there is an open-ended comment box for people to type in what questions they might have. That information will be used to compile a larger FAQ list that we will share out more broadly. We have set up the surveys to be site-specific because each community might have their own concern. As example, for programs of choice versus a school that doesn't have that kind of programming. So at least we can target what specific questions families might have for a certain community. And then again, an opportunity in the LRFP to collect more of those kinds of questions and that people might have as part of a larger process.
Thank you. Trustee Connolly?
I'm wondering if any consideration has been given once it goes out to those school communities and the deadline has come and gone, if there would be consideration to offering it to say, if Kelvin kids, if there's a pocket of them that maybe don't, their kids don't feel or their parents don't feel they're ready to go to they're intrigued by this option. Is it something, if there's spaces left, that we could possibly entertain opening it up to other schools? If I don't know that there'd be those kind of inquiries, but just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think there could be consideration of it. We would want to see what the survey results sort of come back with. It would certainly be very difficult to sort of, for lack of a better word, cross-contaminate different catchments, especially as it relates to a middle school, for example. I didn't know how else to. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I didn't know how else to say it, but to sort of mix catchments of elementary and middle school populations.
Well, that's what I mean. Like Kelvin could go to Tweed, or a school
Yeah,
could go to Howie or something. To
Yeah,
that
one
effect.
other consideration which the superintendent might want to speak to is just the number of transitions, right? Sometimes that is a challenging piece for a young child to transition not only once, but then twice again the very following year to a middle school.
I think it's more just the comment is more, are we prepared to answer those kinds of questions? So I don't know that we need an answer here right now. And I have to point out that this situation we've known is coming for a long while. The ministry has known. We have put forward 2 middle school sites and both have been denied. And here we sit now having to, split up schools. So I certainly hope this kind of information is going to our local MLA in discussions that we're having so that, they're aware, our local MLAs, so that they are aware of, the ramifications of this, of what we're dealing with here in this district for sure.
Superintendent?
Just a thought connected to that is that it's important to note that what comes out of the long-range facilities planning process sets the course for what the district is pursuing. But it's important for folks to know when you see that decision, a potential decision around K-6, 7 and 9 is there. That's not something that happens immediately. Even if you have a project approved, you're looking at 3 to 5 years before it's even built. And so sometimes, you look at the desire or what you hope for. But it's important to note that there's a lot of time between now and actually being able to pull that plan through to fruition.
Thank you. So there is a motion. I will read it, that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 New Westminster permits staff to offer a voluntary placement of grade 6 students at FW Howie, Connaught, and Lord Tweedsmuir Elementary Schools for the 2026-27 school year. Do I have a mover and a seconder? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. We are moving on to 7G, which is also an update from Secretary Treasurer Ketchum related to our long-range facilities plan, work plan, and timeline.
Thank you. So earlier in this school year, I believe, but last year, we started talking about long-range facility plan refreshes and updates to our existing 2023 plan. We are happy to put forward the timeline before you, prepared by our consultant Studio Hub, who are assisting us in this project. Within this document, you'll see in blue the project phases of discovery, defining the plan and framework and key themes, as well as developing the actual plan and recommendations themselves that take us all the way through to the end of the school year, which is an incredibly tight timeline, but one that is important because it is the document that is a strategic one as it relates to facilities planning and requests for capital to the Ministry of Education. There are a number of touch points in green where the Board of Education will be brought forward a presentation on various aspects and milestones on the long-range facility plan work that is being undertaken. So again, key themes will be shared, survey findings, and projections of student enrollment. There'll be a set of draft recommendations put forward at the beginning of May. And then again, in time for the capital plan submission at the end of June, bringing forward the recommendation and to the board for its approval for the capital plan process at that time. There's also an element here that you see in that orangey pink color, where we've denoted a timeline for survey and engagement with the public in and around the February time period. And as well, a public information session at the end of May after the board has seen the first cut of recommendations that are being put forward by Studio Hub. There's a host of meeting and milestones that are sort of more internal that we plan to utilize as part of forwarding this project forward, which includes a number of biweekly meetings with the City of New Westminster to ensure that we have the most up-to-date information that we have on projections and various developments. And again, the big milestone here being the approval of the recommendations for purposes of capital plan submissions in June. To highlight, because of the tight timeline, while the recommendations will come forward and be approved in June, the actual report itself may extend a little bit further as we put the final touches on graphics, appendices, so on and so forth of the actual document. But the actual bones itself and the recommendations will be shared with you for your consideration and approval in advance.
Thank you. Long awaited and happy we're here. Whew. Comments, questions from trustees? Trustee Russell?
Thank you. I'm just really glad that we are able to do this. I know we had wanted to initiate this process earlier, but while waiting for funding approval on a major school, it was really challenging to be able to go out to the public with even a framework. So I'm really glad we're here, and then we're going to get something out this school year. And I had thought of a question that I didn't think of when I looked at it earlier, which is just, is there an ability to bring it to coordinating committee work in the schedule?
Yes, thank you. I should have mentioned there'll be other opportunities outside of board meetings to connect with our partner groups. One such example is to bring forward this topic with our coordinating committee next week. I think it's February 5th. So our partner groups will have a bit of a glimpse as to additional sort of information as it relates to the consultation process the engagement process with the public, those kinds of things. And so where we have the opportunity slated within our schedule, there surely will be updates to those groups for additional sort of feedback as well.
Thank you. There's no motion on this. This was just for information. Am I right? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Next up is annual trustee remuneration review from Secretary Treasurer Ketchum.
Thank you. Yes, in accordance with policy 7.3, we do have to bring this information to trustees annually for your consideration and for you to decide whether you would like to enact any sort of increase to your stipends for the upcoming year. So the information required to be brought forward to you is a rolling CPI index for the past 5 years, which is sitting currently at 3.68%. In the table in your packages, you'll see the various trustee positions, the current stipend, the increase of the stipend if the 3.68% were applied, and the stipend following the increase. Just to note that the overall budget impact for the 2026-27 year would be $8,831. For your information, and as you know, the collective agreements for our union groups expired on June 30th and currently are under negotiation at present. So we do not have any information concretely at this time regarding the final settlements regarding those negotiations. If the trustees would like to enact an increase, you'll have to put forward a motion to be moved, seconded, and carried. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to move the motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 New Westminster apply an increase of 3.68% to existing trustee remuneration effective July 1st, 2026 as per Board Policy 7.3? Trustee Dollywell, seconder. Thank you. All in favor? Comments? Sorry, my apologies.
Look, this is a difficult discussion, and I was here when we put forward the initial motion. And the intent was I think it was kind of twofold, if I recall correctly, and I supported it fully and have over the past number of years to move away from political posturing and to create, a salary that was viable and made this role appealing to more people in our community. And I have supported that over the years, but a lot has changed in the years since, particularly in the last couple of years. And since we passed that initial recommendation, and I don't want, this is me personally, I really don't want this to be seen as posturing, and I know the intent was to move away from that. But I just personally can't in good conscience, knowing, the economy that we're sitting in right now. I personally can't support this.
Trustee Carlson?
I do want to be clear that I don't see this as a reflection on the value or work of our leadership. My hesitation is kind of the same, comes from timing and context. We're currently asking parents and families to accept real losses, and a lot due to provincial funding decisions outside of our control. And I'm struggling with approving increases at the governance level, knowing how this may land. So I won't be voting in favor of this.
Okay, Trustee Russell.
I'd like to move to table. This is a motion that the board has passed unanimously for the 7 years that I've been on the board. And given that there's people want to take another look at it, I myself would like a little bit more time.
Is there a seconder? To table it. I know. Just let me think for a second here. Okay, trustee Russell, do you want to propose a date by which we would bring this back to the board table for discussion?
Toward our next open meeting.
Okay, is there a seconder? We did have a seconder, and any discussion on the motion to table? Yes, trustee Slynn.
We vote to table it, then we don't have further discussion tonight, is that correct? Because, okay.
Okay, oh, no, go ahead.
It gives us more time to discuss
Yeah.
away from the table is what it perhaps buys us here. That's what I think.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of tabling the discussion until the next open board meeting? Okay, thank you. Is that acceptable? Okay. Should have asked you that first. Thank you. And our last item under reports is a request for approval for an international field trip to Europe in June 2027, and we're going to hear from Superintendent Davidson on this matter.
Thank you, Chair. You can see in your package that a trip is being planned by Department Head of IB and colleagues to Europe in June of this year for grade 12 students who've been in the IB program at NWSS. It looks like an amazing trip where they get to visit key sites related to sciences, arts, theater, history, and higher learning, things that they've spent a good deal of time talking about within the curriculum in IB. And so you'll see a motion there seeking board approval for continued planning and execution of that field trip.
And there is a recommendation, so we'll get it on the floor and then we can discuss it, so that the Board of Education of School District Number 40 New Westminster approve the field trip proposal request for the New Westminster Secondary Grade 12 IB students to attend Europe, London, UK, Paris, France, Geneva, Switzerland, to visit locations related to things they learned during the program. Mover? Second? Thank you. Any discussion? Trustee, what's your name? Andres. Sorry.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe the superintendent could speak to this, but is there a specific training or professional development that teachers undergo in order to supervise like a trip of this nature, which falls really far outside of their regular training? And as someone who did one of these trips myself when I was in high school a few years ago, it was a tremendous educational experience and a lot of interesting things happened. So I'm just curious about the level of training and professional development.
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, it doesn't take the form of training and professional development as much as it does the expectation around rigor in planning that exists within the AP. So Associate Superintendent Lawler put a good deal of time in last year working on the AP that guides the work of planning trips in terms of level of supervision, nature activities, and so on. And so that's where we place information and direction that is intended to cause planners to think about contingencies.
Thank you.
Trustee Connolly.
This is just a little thing. There's a spelling mistake that it's jumping out at me in the last sentence. Things they leaned during the program. But I don't. And I think that Trustee Andres was trying to get himself on there as a guardian or something.
They're not going to Pisa, so there's no leaning.
I have a question about I mean, it's a very expensive trip, and I would love to hear a little bit more about what kind of thought has gone into how to support these kids to be able to attend, and what percentage of the IB students expect to be participating in the trip.
And that's information I'd have to get for you.
Okay, with no further Discussion, yes, trustee Slin.
Sorry, coming in late. It's not a question so much to say that like, yeah, this is an expensive trip. But I think it can be priceless for young people. Shakespearean workshops and going to museums and to Paris, like I don't know. It's gonna cost money, but having those experiences, especially with your peers and to be able to carry that forward. Yeah, I'm excited for them and I would support this.
Okay, so we'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is passed. All right. Where am I? Okay. We've got agenda item number 8, new business. And the first item is a chair report. I have 2 brief updates to share. I just wanted to let folks know that we've concluded our superintendent review with the support of an external consultant. This was a comprehensive evaluation that included feedback from many of our partners, staff, and our board, and I want to thank all of those who took the time to contribute. The second update is that the board is also contemplating some work related to governance in the coming months. This work will be supported by a consultant as well, and we're currently waiting on a report from BCSTA, which may influence the direction and or the scope of this work. I thank the board for their commitment to this work. It is indeed some of the most important work, I think, that we do as trustees. And as this is an election year, we want to ensure that a new board is set up for success. That concludes my report. Any questions or comments? Okay. And 8B is BCSTA AGM motions. And I think we have a copy of that motion. Thank you. I will pass it over to trustee Andres for an update and a potential motion then.
Hi, thank you. So at our October meeting, trustee Connolly passed a motion which involved advocacy for the Student and Family Affordability Fund to continue. And so this fund had been in place. I'm not going to go through it all because we had already discussed the motion, but the wording has to be exactly, it has to pass in one of our board meetings here before it can be submitted to the BCSTA. And so I've just removed the board specific information that was in the original motion, and I've just kept the gist of the motion. And so I'll just read it for us here. That BCSTA urges the Ministry of Education and Childcare and Province of British Columbia to permanently reinstate and sustainably finance the Student and Family Affordability Fund. Thank you.
Do we have a mover? Second? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, trustee Andres, for bringing that to us. There is no old business, which brings us to agenda item number 10, which is trustee reports. Trustee Dollywall.
I feel nervous saying this out loud. But I wanted to publicly share that this is my last in-person meeting. And I've also decided to officially resign effective February 27th from the Board of Education. And this is to just take on what I think is my most important role of becoming a mom. So, yes, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to express my gratitude and appreciation to the new Westminster community. It has been a privilege to serve over the last nearly 8 years, and gosh, I'm getting shaky. It's been a really good time, and I feel like I just, to everyone around this table, I have really valued working together, and we've went through so many challenges and have accomplished a lot, and I wish you guys all the best in the final year as well. Thank you.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge trustee Dollywall's contributions at this table. Gervine will have served almost 2 terms, including holding leadership roles of vice chair and chair. Throughout her tenure, she has been a strong advocate for student well-being, championing greater mental health supports, including leading the opening of the Wellness Center, expanding opportunities for student voice and engagement, and advancing food security initiatives to better support learners and families. As chair, Graveen played a key leadership role in advancing major capital priorities, including the new downtown elementary schools and the expansion of Queen Elizabeth Elementary. She also built positive and strong intergovernmental relationships and was instrumental in securing the Queensborough bus, improving access and connectivity for students and families in the community. Thank you, Graveen, for your leadership, your commitment, and services to the students and families of New West. And we wish you the best of luck in this new chapter of your life. It's been a privilege. Okay, we'll just we'll give Graveen 30 seconds to settle in. Are there any other trustees that have a report? Trustee Connolly?
I just want to point out that I attended the 13 junior presentation musical, and it was incredible as always. Just such phenomenal talent. There's some new kids coming through, and I also know that Trustee Russell had a very strong connection in behind the scenes. Her daughter was doing all the stage management and got a ton of kudos on closing night, and rightfully so. It was very, very impressive. So kudos to the program, to all the educators, to all the volunteer parents, and certainly to the students as well who put themselves out there and did such a great job. So thank you.
Trustee Andres?
Yeah, the show was great. Enjoyed it as well. Yeah, kudos to the students. I want to talk about traffic. So I was at the PAC meeting at Lord Kelvin, and I discovered that the intersection actually on 10th Street and 7th Avenue is the busiest intersection in the city for pedestrian traffic, which I was not aware of. And there have been a number of near misses over the course of this year, and just like a lot of tension and conflicts that is arising around the traffic situation there. So it's an area of immediate concern, and the PAC had brought it forward as something to talk about, and so I just wanted to share a little bit of an update around that. So one of our staff, Mark Lazelle, was really quick in going down and doing a count and just getting an idea of how busy the area was, and then being able to connect with the city representative and bring forward our issues with that intersection. And we were also able to reach out to traffic enforcement, the NWPD. And so they were actually performing traffic stops. Some of you may have seen that on Facebook, and from an education perspective, so just getting people to notice the new signage. A new stop sign has been put up at that 7th intersection, 7th and 10th Street. So just an important change. And I think there are other things that are coming, and Superintendent Davidson can talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to remind parents, please, talk about your experiences to your trustee representatives. Bring these things forward. It's really important to talk about that, and we can, make our school spaces safer, and we have done that, a number of times this year. But keep bringing them forward. Thank you.
Yeah, Trustee Andre sent me an email, and then I reached out to Matt, Brito, and Mark, and within probably 5 or 6 hours, they had responses from both NWPD and from the city about what might be done. And so the city's already having conversations about potential traffic calming measures, and they're going to review that intersection in that area. Police were on the spot really quickly, so we're very appreciative of how quickly the city responded to the expression of concern that came through PAC, which speaks to what Trustee Andre said. The value of PACs across the district and DPAC is great, and that we learn things that we're able to address, and we also learn things that we're able to communicate to partners and address together. So thank you for that.
Trustee Carlson?
Thanks. It's been a busy month. I just want to start this year by focusing on gratitude and talk about what I'm seeing in the schools and the community. First, I'd like to thank DPAC for having me at their meeting and for always coming so informed, prepared, and committed to the students. I also really appreciated the presentation from Lacey Hurdle of the City of New Westminster and Barry Fan from Urban Systems, talking about future pathways and roadways near our schools. This work really matters. It's about safety and infrastructure. So I would encourage all trustees and the public to look it up and share feedback with the city. I'd also like to thank Dave Crow and the design team working on the new elementary school beside Fraser River Middle. We have a rare opportunity right now at the early design stage to listen to those who work in our schools every day. So I encourage staff to share your experiences and your ideas so that we build a school that truly supports those who learn and work in it every day. I'll move on to congratulations to the NWSS Senior Girls Basketball team for bringing home silver at the Eric Hamber tournament, and to the Senior Boys team for bringing home gold this past weekend. Congratulations to the musical theater program for their wonderful production of 13, as you discussed. Congratulations and thank you to Masonic students and others who performed to celebrate Robbie Burns Day last Friday at Herbert Spencer Elementary School. Fun to be there. And I'll close with a sincere thank you to the parents, volunteers, and school teams who make these opportunities possible. Athletics, art, science, trades, music, dance, drama. There's countless hours that go into creating a school experience that our students can be proud of. And I think we should all be proud of the people working with our kids. And I'd like the families to know we are working to protect and strengthen experiences for all the students. The challenges we're managing at times, like right now, are often the result of short-term decisions being made upstream. They create long-term impacts locally, but we will keep advocating for our students and our families. Thank you.
Trustee Russell?
Thank you. I just wanted to flag that I think I and a couple of other trustees are forming up the policy review committee, or just policy committee, I think. And we'll be getting together for a first meeting just to talk about which ones we want to address first. But there's a number of policies that we haven't had an opportunity to review during this term. So we'll probably be starting with those, and looking forward to doing that.
Thank you. And I'll just offer a quick report as well. January was largely inward focused, but I did have an opportunity to get out a bit. The School Witch Pack meeting was last week. They're an incredibly engaged group who are really making a difference for the kids in that school by coordinating events such as dances and movie nights, supporting teachers and other school staff with incredible financial resources. And they're asking great questions. We had a fairly long dialogue in particular about grade reconfiguration. And there was significant support for moving to keep grade sixes at elementary school. I think this is going to be a very popular concept overall. I also attended a SOGI committee meeting last week. This committee continues to focus on important initiatives like visibility. Installations of our Learning with Pride logo are almost complete. There's also a subcommittee working on bathroom signage to ensure that students feel comfortable using bathrooms at our schools, and another subcommittee working on a gender identity handbook. And we're starting to look at policy 17, sexual orientation and gender identity, as well as the associated AP 117. And I did have an opportunity on Friday as well to see 13 Junior It was so good. It's a coming of age musical. It tackles some really challenging topics. Our teachers supported students in a way that brought these challenges to life in a really meaningful way. Positive messages about healthy relationships, what it means to be a friend, how challenging it can be to stay true to yourself. And when we layer on such a talented group of actors, singers, dancers, tech people, none of whom actually auditioned for these roles. This is just a class performing. Yeah, there was no opportunity for me to walk out of there with dry eyes. It was really, really good. We're so lucky. So lucky. Yeah. So we are at agenda item number 11, which is question period. I will just read a preamble as per policy 7.1 on public participation. The board welcomes and provides for public participation by members of the community. The board believes this is essential for improving decision-making and creating more inclusive, effective, and sustainable outcomes. The board expects all persons attending its meetings to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Members of the public may ask a question and seek clarity on matters that arose during the board meeting. The time limit for comments and questions will be 3 minutes, excluding any responses to questions from trustees. I will invite, maybe we'll start online. If anybody online has a comment or question, I see a Zoom user. If you could introduce yourself and and then just go ahead and tell us the nature of your question.
Hi, my name is Allison Eitzma. I just have a question regarding the grade 6 staying back at school. I think as a parent, I wouldn't have enough information to make an informed decision. I know that there is the question box that you are gonna, people can ask questions for, but I think if the survey goes out, parents are gonna need more information about like what that looks like for their kids, whether there's gonna be electives similar to there is in the middle school, or it's only gonna be the academic curriculum, what kind of supports there's gonna be for kids transitioning in grade 7. So yeah, I think that in order to get, for parents to be able to make an informed choice, they might need to know more information prior to making that decision. So I was wondering if there's that kind of information is going to go out along with the survey.
Superintendent Davidson.
You bet. We've been working on a document that takes anticipated questions and provides answers to it. In order to prepare that, we've worked with administration at the middle schools, the elementary schools, and staff here. And certainly we can add to that document as questions arise, and then just continue to share that as a living document with families who are facing that decision.
All right, thank you very much. And then I also just have one more question, whether there's been any news in terms of the walking school bus up to Herbert Spencer for EFI families.
It's an update. I'll pass it over to Superintendent Davidson. He provided it earlier in the meeting, but I'll just maybe get him to briefly recap it.
Is that we're working with the society that operates walking school buses to develop a survey that we will share on their behalf. And that'll help us determine the number of riders who are interested in that service, where they live, where they would need to be picked up, and so on. And that should be coming out fairly shortly.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Allison. Anybody else online? Okay, we'll move to in person. Anybody for question period? James, just take a moment to introduce yourself and then go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm James Plett. I'm a parent of a seamless student at Kakite Elementary. The letter I submitted tonight shares the story of my daughter who's thrived because of this inclusive environment. And so I'm speaking tonight because I want to ensure we protect the trust between families and this school board. We're seeing a difficult cycle repeat itself, whether it was the daycare moves in 2022, the French immersion changes, or now the seamless program. Parents are frequently told that immediate crises prevent dialogue. However, when other districts face identical funding cliffs, managed to warn families a year in advance, it suggests that our district can do better. Reading the report tonight, it mentioned that the board knew about seamless ending in the spring of 2025. This board didn't tell seamless families until November of 2025. I enrolled my daughter into this program while you all here knew the program was ending. It's really not fair. And it goes on. When I hear that programs of choice review count as consultation, the very report calls for, it doesn't click for me because I read the report. I'm reading the reports you guys are giving us. I'm seeing the policies you guys have, and they don't line up with the reality you're selling us. Policy 24 is designed to ensure parents have a voice when it comes to things like seamless day or before after school care. Being told there's no time for consultation feels contrary to that policy. True engagement requires dialogue before a decision is finalized. A gap in communication since 2024 doesn't meet the standard of ongoing consultation. And we do need to look at things like equity. Decisions like moving French immersion from the most affordable part of New Westminster to the least affordable part of New Westminster will have unintended consequences for learners in this district. When we talk about equity, we aren't talking about making sure that everyone gets the exact same thing. We're making sure that everybody has the same opportunities. Things like EFI, at its core, it is a lottery. It's not equitable. So when we talk about equity in programs like Seamless Day, programs of choice also need to be seen in that light. Making inequitable programs less equitable isn't a good look, and it's not a good move. Parents in New Westminster are attentive and capable. We want to be partners in solving these problems, not just the recipients of bad news. We're asking you not to rush this. We're asking you to adhere to your own policies. We're asking you to take time to make right decisions and to actually talk to the people you have to talk to. I was really grateful to hear a lot of the talk around Seamless Day tonight, and I was really grateful to hear a lot of the questions that were coming from people at this table. But I don't know if that was for the benefit of everyone in this room, because it seems like those are conversations that should have already happened. These are reports that should have already been commissioned. These are things that should have already been told to everyone in this district. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'll just offer a response that you've probably already received, but the provincial government, as you've pointed out, recently confirmed that funding for the pilot will end on June 30th and has encouraged districts to help families transition to other childcare options where and when possible. In New West, we've connected with a trusted nonprofit third-party provider, WCAS, who indicated that they are willing to integrate the 24 spots into their ongoing before and after school childcare offerings at Kakite. While we acknowledge that this does not replicate the Seamless Day experience, the district is in a difficult position right now as the regulations related to Bill 19 remain unclear. And as you know, the Seamless Day model included staffing that bridged into school day instructional time. And under the pilot program, these costs were covered by the province. Without this provincial funding, without this provincial program and funding combined with no updated regulations, we can't continue this model of childcare delivery integrated with the school day. It's not acceptable to leave Kakite Seamless Day families without certainty about their before and after school childcare. Therefore, we support the decision to pursue a trusted nonprofit third-party childcare provider. Once these regulations are released and we have the opportunity to review the impact on our district, the board may choose to review its options. I appreciate your advocacy. Any other questions or comments? Come on up, Laura. Making a move.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Laura Kwong, and I'm the chair of the District Parent Advisory Council here in New West. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update from DPAC on several items we've been hearing about from families across the district this past month. First, on Queensborough bus advocacy, DPAC has developed a letter template regarding the Queensborough bus program, and we've shared it with PACs and on our social media, so families and school communities can amplify advocacy for permanent funding directly to the province. Our question for the board this evening is, have you received any response to your own letter of advocacy regarding the program? Families are very eager to understand if there's been any movement or just acknowledgement from the province that our elected officials have made promises that look like they're about to be broken. Second, on the loss of seamless day at Kakite, families appreciate that before and after school spaces are being protected. That matters. However, the loss of ECEs in classrooms during the instructional day is enormous. These ECEs have been deeply valued, trusted, and cherished educators in our children's daily school experience. There's also a real uncertainty for families around whether these individual ECEs will continue with WCAS. Even if WCAS offers them positions, the roles would be fundamentally different from what they're doing now. And we understand that there will likely be ECs who won't opt to take those positions. The result is instability for staff, children, and families. This adds up to the third time in 3 years, and pardon my language, to another crappy situation for childcare in our district, and one that families are clearly feeling deeply. On the engagement for the long-range facilities plan refresh, we've reviewed the engagement plan and note that the schedule looks very similar to what has been done in the last round, particularly around opportunities for public engagement. We understand that the refresh timeline is very tight and appreciate how hard you are probably working to meet those deadlines. But our district is facing complex and growing enrollment pressures. Managing that reality is going to require creativity. And we think outside perspective is essential for that kind of outside of the box thinking that's needed right now. So again, we'd ask for maybe another opportunity for public engagement on this early on, concept ideas, share that with us. Also related to the long-range facilities plan, we wanted to note that the district has an important opportunity where you could be really clear and honest with the Ministry of Infrastructure about the capacity challenges we're facing. We encourage the board to be bold in the messaging in the long-range facilities plan. Other districts have done this successfully, including SD 73, SD 68, or a cheeky history of portables in SD 35's long-range facilities plan. And we believe that New West can take a page from these books. Speaking on going outside the box to deal with capacity pressure, on the grade reconfiguration plans, we have some questions to share that have come up from parents over the past month. I'm well over time, my apologies. So I'm just going to run through these. So this maybe help inform the FAQ you're putting together. What are the plans if there is a large number of families that opt to stay for grade 6 at their elementary school beyond what there is capacity to retain there? What process will be used to decide who gets to stay and who can move? Will it be a lottery or other formal allocation mechanism used, maybe consistent with how programs of choice are enrolled? And if there's going to be any sort of balancing of parents' wishes to have their child remain versus a child's wishes to move, how will that be managed or considered? And if there is a minimum number that's going to be needed to make this viable, like what if you get 5 kids that want to stay? Would you keep 5 grade 6s back at an elementary school? I don't know. These are just questions we've heard, so just putting them out there. And is there a plan to address scenarios where students who remain or move create particularly unbalanced or complex class composition? And then on access to extracurricular programming, how will equity in that access be maintained? If you have programs and classes that aren't available at elementary schools, they're available at middle school. And then when those students who opt to stay move to middle school in grade 7 and have missed out on that year, if that compounds with other opportunities that would be available to them in grade 7 had they been there in grade 6. And lastly, we're not social scientists, but we did go back and look through the research that was cited as supporting this decision. And my personal opinions on middle school aside, this is just, I know there are challenges at middle school, and I just don't know. And what the research is saying, and I'm not certain that the research cited is actually drawing the conclusions that were previously cited at board meetings. It looks like There were conclusions drawn about grade 6 transitions, but in the research study, the cohorts that had a grade 6 transition were all part of the public school system, and those that did not have a transition were part of the separate Catholic school or French school boards. So there were other factors that did not look to be controlled in that. They controlled for socioeconomic status, but not for the differences in curriculum between those very different school boards in Ontario. So the point here is that parents appreciate transparency in decision making. I think that's been a point that we have not failed to share with you. And it's okay to acknowledge if this grade configuration is being driven solely by capacity challenges and budgetary pressures. So yeah. And lastly, we'd just like to put an ask that the board continue advocating to the province strongly about the increasing pressure being placed on our municipality to approve new housing without corresponding provisions for new schools. The disconnect is not sustainable, and families are feeling the consequences in overcrowded classrooms, portables, and delayed projects. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update.
Thank you, Laura. Just going to try to respond to a couple of things. I am not aware that we've received any correspondence related to the advocacy we've done around the Queensborough bus. I don't know if somebody from staff can speak to whether staff that are currently employed by the district ECEs will move to WCAS. I would imagine if there's some comfort, there might be a conversation, but
That would depend on WCAS if they want to employ ECEs.
so I don't think we can answer that one. And was there another question that we can ask here? Can we integrate an additional opportunity for public engagement? Can you let us ponder that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that and appreciate those questions. I think there are a lot of the questions that came up in our board discussions, but there might be some new things. So that's good. Yes, Superintendent.
Just a couple of pieces. One connected to the challenge around the decision regarding seamless day. The loss of that funding that cannot be recovered through fees amounts to about $6,100 per child in an average kindergarten size class, which would be about 18. That would mean in order to maintain programming as it existed within the pilot, the district would need to spend 160% per student in the one seamless program of what is spent in all of the other 40 kindergarten classes across the district in order to maintain it. So the equity question is broader than the equity question as raised. It would be very hard to look at the kindergarten families in each of those other 40 kindergarten classes and say, we will spend roughly $10,000 in grants received in your class, but we will spend about 16,000 per pupil in another. And that is the great challenge that pilots create. When government creates pilots and doesn't consider that there's going to need to be a conversation about scalability after the fact, it makes it very challenging for boards and for administration to take care of those programs. I don't think anyone denies the great value of the pilot. No one does. And I think, I know I certainly heard the need for advocacy, and I know the board has made a motion for a letter. But I think it is important to consider that when these decisions are taken because variables that we don't control are changed, that equity discussion is certainly a part of it, and we have to consider the whole of the district. What was the other? The grade reconfiguration questions, all of them, those are ones that we've certainly talked about. We have pretty decent idea of how folks are leaning just based on conversations with the administration in those schools. So we will not have a circumstance of 5 remaining or not. Obviously the decision is always the parents' decision, and that debate that'll happen in the home will be one. Well, we've all had some kind of a debate with our kiddos about big and important decisions, for sure. We'll provide a good deal of information in that document we described earlier around things like complementary courses and band and so on, what articulation looks like when a student moves into grade 7 from a school where they had chosen to stay. So that's all work that we'll do. In terms of the research around later transitions, we can provide a hockey sock full of research that supports later transitions, and certainly can flesh that out in the FAQ document that we send out.
Thank you. That'd be helpful.
Thanks, Laura. Are there any other questions or comments? Sarah, just introduce yourself and go for it.
Hi, I'm Sarah Arboleta. I am the parent of a seamless student at Kakite. I do want to first thank the really robust information that we've received. And just to quickly reiterate, I think a very central point that isn't getting addressed by what have been very gratefully received and well thought out responses, which is that I just kind of want to bring it back to that central thing of consultation, because absolutely everybody understands that this district, I mean, if this district were in charge of provincial funding, things would look very different. And along with the pilot funding, along with a more, again, robust understanding of why parents can't cover, ECE costs during the day. However, consultation, information, and a more collaborative and less antagonistic relationship with parents, I think would go a long way for parents being able to understand these things earlier and feeling like they have buy-in themselves. And I think that that has been the consistent issue that I have noticed in the, unfortunately for all of us, 4 years that I've been coming here. And so that to me is, I think, that central issue is that I'm not really hearing that piece addressed, and I don't think it's a simple solution. I don't think anybody here is doing that out of any sense of malice, but I think I have seen that build up over time as an idea of holding back information until there's a full plan. But if we all have the information, one, parents have a better ability to advocate alongside this board as opposed to treating it like it is this antagonistic relationship. And then also it gives parents more options and more time. So for the EFI parents, as we know, the before after school program, they can put their names on more lists, they can think of more solutions and so on. And for Seamless, I absolutely think the WCAS is a great solution for the individual students in Seamless, forgetting all of the other aspects. However, if parents do want to put their names on other lists, knowing that in spring of 2025 would have given us much longer to put our names again on other lists. And so I think it is just a blanket call for moving forward with a greater spirit of genuine consultation and collaboration.
Thank you, Sarah. Parents as partners is I think a value that every board member around this table believes in. I agree with early and often. I know how important that is. There are sometimes times when that doesn't happen. And I think we can offer, a genuine commitment to continue to put more effort into making sure that happens. We're going to go back and see if we can add a third opportunity for engagement with families with this long range facilities plan. It is a very compressed timeline, and asking families to come out 3 times in 5 months may not be reasonable, but parents as partners is a principle that I think we all buy into. So thank you.
Thank you.
One last call for questions. Okay. We have noted a record of a December 16th, 2025 in-camera meeting. And that brings us to adjournment. Gurveen, would you like to move the motion that we adjourn? Seconder, please. All in favor? Thank you so much. Have a great night.